Welcome to the Midnight Horror Club. My name is Dina Anderson, and on this channel we talk all things horror, crime, conspiracy theories, and scary stories. If that's something you're interested in, then please subscribe, and let's get started. Hi and welcome back to another episode. Today is Sleepover Saturday. It's the time to listen to creepy horror stories while we eat snacks. I also don't know if you can hear this, but it is storming outside. It went from being completely quiet. The whole street is asleep, by the way, because it's midnight and it is the 31st of December. So I'm guessing everyone's asleep because it is New Year's Eve in like 2 seconds. But it was really quiet outside, and then suddenly it just went stormy, and at one point it sounded like there was a wave of water on my street, and I was just like, what the? I do live really close to the water, so I had to check. So I opened the blinds because I had to check if there was water outside, but there wasn't anything. But I don't know, that's such a weird fear of mine. I guess I've always lived close to the ocean. I always have a fear of being flooded, even though it's never happened. So yeah, it's weird. Anyways, I got a tattoo. Actually, I got 1, 2, 3, 4. I got 4 tattoos. So got one that was really meaningful to me, and then I was like, oh, okay, I might get another one, and then I ended up getting 4. Anyways, I really want to show you because this is the only place I feel like people would get it. I showed my friends, my family, everyone the tattoo, and everyone hates it. So anyways, I have a feeling you're gonna love it, so let me show you. I got a clown on my leg. Anyways, because it's Sleepover Saturday, obviously we have to talk about the snacks, but my snacks today are fucking random. I have a plate of, let me show you, crackers. And you might be thinking, oh, I'm sure it's like delicious cheese or like fancy crackers. No. It's literally water biscuits or water crackers or whatever they're called. The most boring snack, but I've always been obsessed with them. Don't know why, because they're really boring. The second thing I have is marzipan balls that I made myself. It's marzipan from Denmark, and it is so good. And when I say I made it myself, I made the ball. I rolled it, and then I have chocolate chips on my plate. Yeah, that's my snack. Oh, also, okay, sorry, skip this if you just want to listen to the stories, okay? My latest obsession is, and you've probably seen this, and if you haven't, oh my god, do it, watch it, the North Sea. I am obsessed. I cannot stop watching videos of the North Sea, okay? And then you might be thinking, why? It's just an ocean. But oh my god, some of the videos, where's my phone? Some of the videos are just so creepy, and it's so fascinating because the ocean is so insane. It is so insane. If you need a new obsession in life, you are welcome. Anyways, I think it is time to get started with the story. So make yourself comfortable, grab a drink, a snack, whatever you want to feel comfortable, and let's get started with the creepy stories. When I was 14 years old, I received my first cell phone. It was one of the earlier models, small and basic. All the cell phones were only able to make or receive calls. They didn't have cameras or apps or even call ID. I used my phone pretty frequently, texting friends or calling home, and I had become very familiar with all the incoming numbers that were displayed on my phone screen. After about 6 months, I received a call from a number I didn't recognize. I ignored it. I figured it was a wrong number and didn't think more of it. The next day, the same unknown number called me again. Just as before, I ignored the call. The third day, the same number called me again. This time, I answered quickly with a cliche, wrong number, and hung up. A few seconds later, I received a text from whoever it was who kept calling me. The text simply read, "Call me." I didn't know what to do. I didn't know who this person was, why they wanted to talk to me, or how they got my phone number. For months, I continued to ignore the incoming texts that appeared daily. Each text came from the same number with the same message, "Call me." Unable to stand the bizarre messages, I decided to trace the number and finally identify the person who was harassing me. After a few minutes on the internet, I was able to trace the number to an exact location in town. I arrived at the location only to discover that the number was for a public payphone. I didn't want to give up the search so quickly, so I chose to observe the phone for a while and see if anyone stopped by. I wasted my day watching the phone and no one approached it. I was about to leave when I received another text. The same text I received for so many weeks. "Call me." It was then I realized that texts cannot be sent from payphones, only cell phones. I turned around and saw a strange man with a red hoodie pulled up so I couldn't see his face. He was holding a cell phone in his hand, and he waved at me with the other hand. I was petrified as my mind began racing with questions. Who was this man? Where did he come from? Why is he calling me? And how long has he been standing there? Too scared to confront the man, I turned and ran as fast as I could for home. I told my older brother about what happened, and he wanted me to take him to the phone. We got in his car and I pointed out the phone on the corner. We got out of the car together. He had a baseball bat in his hands in case anyone tried to mess with us. We checked the payphone and we found that the phone had been tampered with, that the man in the red hoodie had manipulated the wires so it looked as though I was receiving calls from the payphone instead of his actual cell phone. We also noticed on the side of the payphone it said the words, "Call me." Needless to say, I got rid of my phone and bought a new phone, and with it, a new number. Life returned to normal for a while after that, but 2 months later, I received another strange text. This time, the text came from my old number and stated, "I bought a new phone too." I got rid of the phone and chose to never buy or use one again. Shortly after, someone began calling my house number and leaving the same message in a raspy voice, "Call me." I now live without any phone in my life whatsoever. I never called the man, but that never stopped him from calling me or my family. After moving to a small town in southern Michigan, I got a job as a cashier in the local store. After work, I would walk home to my small house and order pizza. This was my routine for 2 weeks when things took a strange turn. I called in my usual order to the pizzeria when a new voice, one I hadn't heard before, answered the phone and told me, "The usual? No problem, I'll deliver it in less than 5 minutes." Sure enough, within 5 minutes, my order was delivered, and it was exactly what I had ordered every night before. When I tried to give the delivery boy a tip, he declined. He said he didn't need it and that he was just working at the pizzeria to get out of the house and to try and meet new people. This became my new routine for about 3 months. I'd order the same pizza and the same delivery boy would stop by at the same time. It was sort of a running joke between us, how he knew my routine so well. When I grew tired of eating the same thing every night, on my way home I stopped at the small diner across the street from the pizza place and had a nice dinner. Through the window, I saw my usual delivery boy leave the pizzeria with a box in hand, heading towards my block. I returned home later than usual, and I found a pizza box sitting on my doorstep. On the box was a note that said, "Missed you. Guess I'll get what you owe me tomorrow." This creeped me out. I called the pizzeria and told the manager what I had found. I told him about the message and that for the past 3 months the same delivery boy had been stopping by and that I was sure he was the one who left the note. It was then the manager told me something I never expected. "Ma'am, we don't deliver." When I was in high school, my friends and I had a weird pastime. Like other teenagers, we liked to cause trouble. We weren't vandals, we didn't deal drugs, and we certainly didn't bully kids in school. No, we liked to scare the living shit out of the new parents by hacking their baby monitors. We were little punks who thought we were too good to get caught. One night, however, I learned my lesson. Dimitri, Kurt, and I went to the same school, shared many of the same classes, and hung out almost every evening after dinner time. We watched prank shows, played video games, and talked about who had the nicest rack in school. One evening, we were trading scary stories at the park. Kurt shared the classic story about the single mother who heard a haunting voice on her baby monitor. Like most stories, it sounded like total bullshit, but Dimitri told us it had happened to his mom. On her own monitor, she'd heard a neighbor singing to her baby. Apparently, it was possible to accidentally tap into someone else's frequency. In an instant, a light bulb turned on in each of our heads. When you're close enough to someone, you don't need words to know exactly what the person is thinking. And we could all tell we were thinking the exact same thing. We were going to buy a baby monitor and prank people. All you need to do is find a device on the same frequency as yours. Never want to do things half-assed, I purchased a high-end monitor with a frequency dial so we could prank as many targets as possible. The following night, we took to our bikes, roamed the neighborhood, and found our first victim. We could see the nursery from the suburban home's second-floor window. Dimitri grabbed the baby monitor and began tuning it to different frequencies, until we heard breathing. I remember feeling excited because it was finally happening. Dimitri pressed a button and began breathing heavily into the receiver. "Your little girl was delicious," he said in a demonic voice. The light in the master bedroom turned on almost immediately, and we heard a scream. Laughing our asses off, we quickly rode off down the street so we wouldn't get caught. We did the prank several times over the course of the following weeks, each taking turns talking through the monitor. Not wanting anyone to get wise to our little game, we chose different houses every time. People's reactions were priceless. Some others would reply in a panic. Others seemed to know it was a hoax and told us to shut up. And one poor woman even started sobbing, begging us not to hurt her baby. I feel bad about that last one now that I'm older, but it was hilarious to me back then. My friends and I mimicked her high-pitched bawling and desperate cries for mercy for weeks afterwards. Yeah, we were dicks. Karma's a bitch, and I got what was coming to me one night. Kurt and Dimitri were busy studying for the midterms, so I went out on my own. By then, we'd gotten pretty much everyone in the surrounding area, so I decided to venture off across town and into unfamiliar territory. Finding a target wasn't difficult. You just had to look for cars with baby seats, houses with overly colorful cartoon-themed curtains, or toys left in the yard. I came across a house that fit all three criteria and parked my bike out of view. Playing with the tuner, I eventually found the right frequency. I could hear the sound of a baby snoring very lightly. A devious little smirk pushed its way onto my lips, and my heart began pounding with excitement. It was my time to shine. "I am watching," I whispered into the monitor, using the creepiest voice I could muster. The house remained dark and lifeless. I figured the homeowners hadn't heard me. "I stand over your bed, watching, waiting. I will get you," I said louder this time. Nothing, just the sound of crickets chirping. Parents usually reacted much quicker than that. I began feeling a little nervous and somewhat exposed. You know, like when you suddenly realize some creep is looking at you? It was getting late, and I had a long bike ride home. Just as I was about to give up and leave, I heard a strange, gurgling sound coming from the monitor. The quiet, rhythmic snore ceased, and I assumed the baby had woken up and was about to start crying. Instead, a man spoke to me.
"You're the one being watched now, one."
My stomach turned. How did he know my name? I felt sick. Something was very wrong, and I could feel it in my bones. I glanced up at the nursery window and saw a silhouette standing there watching me. Had he been there the whole time? I was so scared I could barely breathe. I started shaking. I climbed on my bike and I cycled as fast as I could. Part of me thought I was overreacting, but the overwhelming need to flee overpowered my rational mind. Then the man said,
You can't run. I know where you live, Juan.
I flew down the street and I wasn't gonna stop until I was surrounded by cars and people. While I was cycling, the man started talking again from the baby monitor. I was finally near people. I decided to stop and put my hoodie in my backpack. It then occurred to me that the baby monitors were fairly short-ranged, so I was being followed. I nervously glanced around to try and identify my stalker. Was it the empty-looking van down the street? That guy walking his dog? The car that had just driven by? Either way, the last thing I wanted was to hear that voice again, so I turned off the device. Thankfully, I made it home. I parked the bike in my garage and crawled up the stairs to my bedroom. In one careless motion, I tossed my backpack and the baby monitor in the corner of my room and dove under my sheets like an Olympic swimmer. It doesn't matter how old you are, nothing feels safer than being under your blanket. I closed my eyes, hoping I'd be able to calm down, but then I heard static coming from the monitor across the room. The monitor was supposed to be off.
Sweet dreams, Juan.
Said the voice that still haunts my nightmares. I didn't sleep a wink that night. I was too frightened to get out of bed until sunrise. When I got up, my first order of business was to remove the battery from the monitor and throw it in the trash. I didn't want anything to do with it anymore. I came up with an excuse to give my buddies so they wouldn't think I was a huge wuss. With massive bags under my eyes, I got dressed, had breakfast, and went to school. It wasn't until a few days later I saw that house on the news. In an interview, a police officer explained that the small family who had been living there in the house had been found in their beds with their necks slit open. I had been outside when it happened. The killer had heard me on the baby monitor and decided to mess with me. It was definitely a wake-up call, and I thank my lucky stars that I wasn't murdered that night. I was so busy feeling thankful that I survived that I barely thought about the family who didn't. Now that I'm an adult with a wife and a daughter, I truly understand the consequences of my actions. I can't say for sure whether the killer found me again after all these years, or whether a new breed of idiots had the same idea as my friends and I, but I can tell you that I now understand what true terror is. Last night, I heard something on our baby monitor that sent chills into my very soul. It paralyzed me with fear that I doubt will ever leave me.
I'm still watching.
Is there anything better than creepy stories before bedtime? I think not. Speaking of creepy, I found the video. Okay, this is what I'm talking about. Let me. Okay. I don't know if you can hear the sound. By the way, I'm on TikTok. The Midnight Horror Club is on TikTok. I've only just started posting on there last week. I have 29 followers. Yep. It's crazy. So anyways, I'm going to be posting short videos on there if you're interested. And yeah, check out the North Sea. That is it for this video. So thank you so much for... Damn. Can you hear them? Okay. Wow. I have to look. I'm intrigued. Okay, so it is crazy outside. Anyways, that's it for this video. So thank you so much for listening and watching, and I'll see you next time in the Midnight Horror Club.